Hey guys, Karlsanada13 of the Gamers Camp here, and as the open beta draws close, which is March 1, 2019, today I'm going to give some of my insights regarding the recent private beta of the Division 2 last week. Sadly, the reason why this video was late was because I realized some of my footage have crashed, thanks freaking OBS, and I cannot use the several hours of my gameplay which mostly featured the latter part of the beta like the endgame, dark zone, and PvP aspect of the open beta. Yikes. Thank you so much for the people, however, who gave me permission to use their footage. You rock. Their channels links are down below, so you can go check it out and subscribe to them. Thank you. So now I'm going to say first and foremost that I have never played the first game at all, although I used to be so intrigued on the concept of its lore and its gameplay. But I just cannot bring myself to grind hours and hours for weapons in general. I guess this will be quite an unbiased way to give my impression, since I have seen some people say that the Division 2 is more like the Division 1.5 instead of proper sequel. Anyway, the Division 2 private beta provides us some lengthy content and I really appreciate it. It ranges from the very start of the game, do some missions here and there, and even a glimpse of their end game as well. I would like to focus first on the story. So basically, you're a division agent where you are tasked to handle Washington DC problems to restore order and avoid the impending civil war to happen. The game takes place 7 months after the first game, and it is currently really vague, since we only had 2 missions, 3 if you can count helping the very first segment where you stop invading rogue enemies attacking the capital. The other 2 main missions consist of saving a community leader's daughter from his kidnappers, and the latter mission consists of visiting Jefferson Trade Center. I also realized that the Division agents are silent, and it sucks, since it would be amazing to have at least dialogue or choices that we can select to immerse ourselves more in the RPG element of the game, or at least on the single player aspect of the game. Instead of running and blazing all the time, we're being tasked to do this with no actual input from our character. Now, for the visuals and overall design, I must say I commend the environment visuals for this game. It is amazing to say the least. Plus, it has a good weather system, plus a decently sized map in the private beta where you can explore and stumble upon allies and enemies. You may do a lot of things while exploring, like attacking random enemies, helping allies who are patrolling the area, and more. It gives the game world a perfect post-apocalyptic vibes to it, and exploring a desolated Washington DC is such a treat. Hell, there are even random animals exploring the lands too, which makes the game more immersive. The interior design of the buildings and communities that we have in the private beta are well detailed as well, and does not feel empty at all. The overall visuals look great, but I guess one of my plights for the visuals is the character design. There is no customization here whatsoever with your own character. All you get is randomizing them and which gender you are going to use. It's not even bare bones, it's just that simplistic and boring. So moving on with the gameplay for the private beta, I guess this game reminds me of Spec Ops: The Line and Max Payne. Spec Ops for its cover system, which is amazing, and Max Payne for its bullet sponge enemies. I'm going to say specifically for Max Payne 3, which is adamant for bullet sponge enemies. Like, you could shoot a lot of guys in the body and still gets up, which is hilarious as fuck when I played that game before. So, but you all do these things on an open world area instead. However, from what I have seen, Ubisoft actually held back with Bullet Sponge this time around, but since I have not played the first game, I'm not sure how much this has changed since then. Although I must say, shooting these enemies are not that tedious for a looter shooter game. It is just kind of losing immersion when the bullet sponges are also humans. I get it if it's the player's character. But for an enemy human with barely armor to keep standing after shooting them a lot, I don't think so. Although there are different variants of enemies here, some have light armor, some have heavy armor, which should take several clips to go down. However, once you manage to chip off his heavy armor, he can easily be defeated by them. Again, I have never played the first one, but I have heard some complaints that this was not the case back then. You cannot chip off the heavy armor slowly in the first Division game. The gunplay is really good. There are different types of guns you can use which differ from category to category, such as SMG, LMG, shotgun, assault rifle, and more. You have 2 slots to pick which 2 guns are your best pick, or you can just, I don't know, hoard every gun type you have and switch accordingly depending on the situation. Also, the sounds for these guns are freaking amazing. I like it, and since it's more of a realistic approach, so I don't know, I'm not really a gun enthusiast, but I really enjoyed shooting these freaking guns. So each gun plays differently, and you can mod them to your liking. I guess modding is one of its greatest features in this game. You can mod the guns the way you like it. It is your own customization, and it will really be fun to do it with your favorite guns. AI seems smart enough since they tend to flank you from side to side, which is kind of annoying if you are playing solo since no one has your back. However, it is annoying in a good way. You are forced to move from one location to another strategic location to kill enemies. It gets exciting once a higher tiered enemy comes around in the corner. Yes, they are bullet sponges for sure, but it gets hectic on solo since you are dealing with multiple and a mini boss at once. The perfect example would be the first mission, which is there's a mini boss with gold armor, I believe, and it's really hard to complete the mission if you're playing on solo. So the cover system for this game is well implemented. You can move from one position to another with a click of a button. You just have to point your cursor towards where you want to go, and you can move from adjacent edge to another by moving towards it. So although it gets kind of clumsy sometimes if you are not used to it. Plus, I like how we do not have regenerating health once we are engaged in combat here. Instead, you have limited replaceable armors we have to use in a smart way, since it takes time to fix your armor once it is depleted. The game wants you to play smart and not just go Rambo every time. I am also going to tell you that exploring the map of the Division 2 private beta is really fun. I am mostly player versus environment guy, so I really enjoyed exploring, although it gets kind of tedious when going back and forth to different safe houses, but it is a good thing we have fast travel. I mean, come on, the final game is at least 3 times of the size what we had in the private beta. But anyway, you can do a lot of things instead of fast traveling along the way. In the private beta, we have 2 main missions, like I mentioned earlier, and I enjoyed the challenge on these missions. There's a boss fight at the end of the first one, which is kind of tough, like I said earlier. I did play with randoms when playing the second mission for the second time, and it was actually really easy to do so in co-op. You're not getting flanked as much, but the game just feels more alive when there are allies around, whether it is AI or players. Anyway, there are also a lot of side activities you can do once you have finished the 2 main missions in the private beta. You can capture points, which rewards you with a lot of items. This one in particular is what I have enjoyed the most. You can call reinforcements by shooting a flare. But it takes time for them to reach you, so hold on to your position and try to kill as many enemies as possible. If you are good enough, you can definitely take it single-handedly. However, it is not over once you have cleared the area. You have to defend it for a while before completing the capture. Again, I enjoy it when AI fights AI or we have companions when playing the game. It makes the game more alive. Capture points will then be populated by your allies. However, they are in need of supplies, which you can give them if you have some spares. However, the supplies they have are depleting every single day, and it may get tedious once you have a lot of capture points. I do not know how the developers would handle this or what the consequence would be in the long run if we do not give them resources. I assumed it would be like the enemy will retake the capture point, which is kind of I don't know, dynamic for the game's part. You can also do SHD missions or Shade Tech missions. SHD missions are basically activities where you gain SHD techs, and this can help you shape your character the way you like since they unlock skills and perks for you to use. It is the essential RPG element the Division 2 needs. Perks, in an essence, are passive improvements for your character that is quite self-explanatory. Skills, on the other hand, are abilities that you can use in battle. Apparently, there are new skills here like the use of drones, which for the love of God, I cannot seem to use properly. Each skills have its archetype, like being offensive or defensive. For example, your drone can be either an offensive, where it goes to enemies and explodes itself, or it can be a defensive drone, where it fixes armor little bitty little. It can even repair armor of your allies if there is any. There are other locked skills in the game since it's private beta, but that is the gist of it. So after completing the main mission, we are introduced with the Dark Zone. It is one of the selling points of the first game. It is the player versus environment versus player, which is a total chaos. And this is where most players get their higher tier weapons and equipments. Later on, when players are high level, this is where they mostly hang out. So basically there are 3 Dark Zones in the full release game, but here we are introduced with Dark Zone East, which kind of introduces us with how the world works beyond these walls. There are checkpoints, I think, like in the first game. There are no laws in Dark Zone. Once your allies may become your enemies as well. In the introduction phase, however, you can only see AI and not players. However, once you go back again, and you will finally meet other players. Sadly, I haven't had the time to play a lot of Dark Zone since my time is getting eaten off my job. Plus, the maintenance, unfortunately, as at the same time I'm playing the game, which is freaking awful. Why are you doing that? I guess they cater more on the US player base and not on the Asia player base. I'm not sure. Now, Dark Zones. Dark Zones have been reworked, I believe, for the Division 2. Everything is normalized for the normal Dark Zone, so you not get your ass kicked by higher leveled players. I mentioned a while ago the better loots can be found in Dark Zone, which is called DZ supply drops. It is a good reward where you have to extract it after clearing an area. Extracting can call upon other players that wants to steal your loot, however. These are rogue players. Like I mentioned, Dark Zone is a player versus environment versus player, so the rogue system has also been improved or at least made to be natural to some extent in the Division 2. It has a multi-layered progression in which you can go rogue by just stealing loots here and there. I think that's the new thing from what I researched. If you are a rogue, players do not see you in the map, so you can easily sneak up on them. However, once you go disavowed status when you start killing players, this will put up a bounty on you and players can now see you on the map. Well, not all, but a few. However, there is a timer for this in which you will gain a reward once you have completed it, as long as you last longer than the timer. Then lastly, Manhunt. Manhunt, once you've killed enough players, it removes the timer and you have to do sets of objectives to clear it and claim your reward. Sadly, for a private beta, Dark Zone seems pretty empty when I played. I guess it's because it's the last few days of the private beta. But it may come alive for the first few weeks once the game has released or once the open beta has launched on March 1. That would be really fun. Another PvP mode for the Division 2 is the Conflict, which I found really fun. Again, Conflict is also normalized, so it is more on skills and teamwork. Nothing much can be said about it. I mean, I enjoyed it, but I think it's better to play in Dark Zones since it has more of an open area and more activities and more players to fight against instead of doing 3 versus 3 matchups. Probably my preference. However, I guess if you have a lot of friends, like 3 of you, you can definitely play Conflict and you would really enjoy dismantling other teams. So again, I like that they normalize stats in Dark Zone and PvP and have different level than the one in normal mode. What I do not like, however, is if you play solo in Dark Zones, you will be bound to get wrecked as you are always outnumbered. Again, as I mentioned earlier that bullet sponges have been dialed down by Ubisoft, this goes the same for the players as well. Players can easily die in the game, which forces other players to play smart with tactics to overcome the odds. I actually realized that the bullet sponginess of the enemies are proportional on how many you are in the party as well. This is mostly apparent in hard mode where everything is just so freaking hard to kill if you are in a 4-man party. On normal, the pacing of the gunfights are still fun. They are obviously harder to kill than when you are going solo or duo. I guess Ubisoft has done this so players don't get cakewalked the whole mission if you're playing on a 4-man squad and everyone is easy to kill. Now, for the endgame. Yes, the endgame. We saw a glimpse of it here in the private beta, and I must say that it is wonky at best. I mean, I have played with other guys and we got wrecked for the first time. There's a new faction once you reach the endgame, which is the Black Tusk. If I said it right, Black Tusk. And they are a lot smarter and beefier than the previous factions. I guess this is what Ubisoft has been saying when they said they have focused on endgame. I actually played as survivalist. Yes, if you once you reach level 30, you will be able to use or get at least a 1 specialization. So I use survivalist. Yeah, there's our specialization, which is really fun once you reach that level. Like I mentioned, if you're on a 4-man squad, it just makes everything harder to kill the bullet sponge. Fight waves of people with so much armor with Black Tusk. It is really hard to do so. Hell, they even have a tank or some sort of robot. They spam bunch of grenades at you. Oh, speaking of grenades, I forgot to mention earlier. Enemies spam grenades at you, and I think from what I've researched, there was a bug ever since the Division 1. Even before the impact of the grenade exploded, you are already staggered, so it's not fixed here. It's freaking annoying, and once they keep spamming the grenades at you, it's just really annoying. So yeah, it's a fun experience. The Division 2, probably the full launch, will also introduce a new dark zone, which is the occupied dark zone. I'm pretty sure it's not on the private beta, but basically it turns off normalization for the endgame players so you can really step up your game, especially if you have a high level and a better gun. So yeah, that is the gameplay of the Division 2. It is really fun, especially if you have friends that you can communicate with. If you're playing solo, I guess it is fun as well. Not so much for PvP though. But for the player versus environment aspect of the game, it will be better than the first game, I suppose. Again, I have no again, I have not played the first game, but and from what I've seen here, you can easily solo every mission here alone. So for the technicality of the game, I have encountered some bugs with missing NPCs at the White House, especially on the cutscene. They are even T-posing randomly. These connections are there but not so frequent. However, there was this one time, 4 hours before the maintenance, where I got kicked suddenly out of the server and there was like 1,000 queue when I was trying to get back, and it took it like an hour and a half to finish. I mean, I did a lot of things. Then when I went back, oh shoot, it's not yet finished. And by the time that I managed to get in, the maintenance is about to start or something like that, so I got kicked again. God dang it. So hard crashes. I don't think I have any. I'm not sure, but I read that a lot of people were experiencing it, especially when you've played for a longer time. They probably played 20 hours straight, 8 hours straight or so, and there was a memory leak. So there's that. But it's true, the game degrades performance every hour, or for a while once you've played the game. I mean, I have RX 480 with Sandy Bridge i7 processor, which I know is really old. I mean, I tried running it on DX11. It was not running very well. It's very unoptimized. However, I did run it on DX12 and it was significantly faster and smoother to play. I guess if you have older mid gaming PC, it may be really hard to get at least 60 frames per second. Hopefully it gets more optimized by launch and for, I guess, drivers' maturity. So yeah, I guess that's it. I really enjoyed the private beta. I will probably play the closed open beta to see if it's actually worth buying before March 15. I just wish they had this $39.99 for the standard edition, but it's $60 freaking dollars. But for the Division, I guess if you're really fan of realism looter shooter game, I guess this is the game for you. I personally like the sci-fi setup for this type of game since it's more immersive, shooting non-human pulse punches than human itself. Although I'm going to say again, it is heavily toned down here in the sequel. Regarding if it's worth getting despite being very similar with the first game, well, it is up to you really. If you have invested in the first game so much of your time, then go invest it here next. You will really enjoy it if you enjoyed the first game. For those who didn't like the first game, however, make sure to try the open beta on March 1 and see if you like it now or wait for a sale, for at least 30% sale, because $60 is really quite hefty. I think it even goes $70 on some countries. Eeh. Also, it's sold on Epic Games only, I believe, or on Ubisoft store, not on Steam. So, yikes. Again, the most important for games such as this is the end game. It's basically an MMO. It's only a matter of developing it more and give more content after the release to keep engaging with the player base. And that is up to Ubisoft and their business decision. If they're going to support the game for at least 2 to 3 more years to release the Division 3 again, if this game has been successful. For me, since I have never played the first game, I guess it would be fun if this is just an expansion. There are different features of the game that they really had to make another game. I don't know. Other people would say otherwise. So that is my impression for the Division 2 private beta. I know it is late, I'm sorry. A bunch of issues with my recording and personal life caused this. Also, I'm giving away a copy of the first game, and the raffle would end by March 5, 2019. So the winner has like 5 days to play it and see if it warrants to play the second game. So yeah, thank you guys for watching. Hope you guys like it. Subscribe if you like watching my video. Press like, share it to your friends, and join the giveaway. So yeah, see you guys next time. Bye.